Hi, it's Carter, president of Constitutional Rights PAC, CRPAC, constitutionalrightspac.com. And let's take a minute, if we can, to review yesterday's vote on in the Security Council on Israel's right to survive, to defend itself, to survive. Let's look at the Biden regime's role in it. Okay, the 14 of the members of the Security Council voted for Hamas. There's no other way to put it. They voted that Hamas be allowed to continue on as you were, rearm, reconstitute their forces, and remount its assault on Israel in order to, as its charter calls for, wipe it off the map and kill all the Jews. That's what 14 members of the Security Council voted for. Now, in fairness to the Biden regime, they didn't vote for it. They took a powder. They abstained. Mr. Biden, do you think Israel should have the right to defend itself and survive against a radical Islamist, murderous, savage terrorist group? I don't know. We'll pass on that one. Excuse me? Pass on that one. What a profile Encourage America painted, huh? Yeah, our ally says we need an assist on this. We're fighting for our lives, literally fighting for our lives. Can you help us out? Oh man, what do you think Joe said? I gotta change my sock drawer. They took a pass. They abstained. Now, as to the United Nations, it simply should not exist. That vote yesterday was appalling. I want you to think about something for a second. They voted against the right of Israel to survive. I guess their attitude was, they're only Jews. How else do you interpret it? They were fighting an existential war, and they voted on behalf of Hamas. Still a lot of really swell Hamas guys there at Rafah. We have to protect them. No, you don't. Now, you might say, well, don't forget they also called for the hostages release, kind of as an afterthought, I might add. Oh, how nice. 172 days. That horrifying, heinous terrorist group that committed atrocities unheard of in modern history on October 7th. They've held those hostages 171 days, babies in cages like dogs. Elderly people deprived of their prescription drugs so that they're suffering and undoubtedly dying, and women to rape. How do we know that? Because they raped the women and the men on October 7th. That's the kind of people we're dealing with, okay? So the UN Security Council kind of doing this an afterthought. And oh yeah, Hamas, you ought to give the hostages back, if you don't mind. Okay? Let's put this in perspective. Over 70 years ago, you had the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention did not call for not fighting a war existential war for your own survival. No. There are two things it did call for that somehow the UN doesn't seem too concerned about. One is in Section 1 of Geneva Convention, no hostage taking. It's right there. Can't anybody at the UN read? That's right there in the Geneva Convention, kind of the guidebook to waging war. Could have cited that. Could have been adamant. As a matter of fact, I got to be honest with you. The entire international community, that should be their first demand. Not that we have a ceasefire so that Hamas can regroup and rearm itself. No. How about number one, abide by the Geneva Conference, Section 1 Convention, and release those hostages now. Stop torturing them. Okay? And number two, Article 3 of the Geneva Convention, remember, over 70 years old, says no using civilians as human shields. It's in writing. That's in writing. Have you heard one international leader raise that? Has the UN said a word about that? Nothing. Nor has the Biden administration. So there's two articles of the Geneva Convention that ought to be front and center. Hamas ought to realize we don't care if they kill every one of you if you don't let those people go and stop using human shields. Hiding in hospitals? What? Shooting from hospitals? Shooting from schools? Using UNRWA, the UN, as part of their tunnel network, and actually getting their free electricity from the UN? Yeah, all of that. So there you have it. There's the story of yesterday's vote in the UN, a vote for terrorism. Let's get rid of the UN and let's support Israel as it gets rid of Hamas. Let's do this thing.